Good afternoon. My name is Danny Bryant, and we're going to be talking to you today about how to write a winning abstract for K-Scope, the K-Scope conference. With me is our president, and I'll let her introduce herself in a while, Natalie Delemar. And, oops, how about that slide right there? Oh, we got a transition in this slide. and this is going to be very informal, so we're not going to go a whole bunch of introductions, but we want to bring people in because as an organization, we've gotten feedback and had our content review teams look at abstracts, and we've come up with just some ideas as to how to make sure that people that consistently say they're getting rejected have an opportunity to understand what we're looking for, because it can be difficult taking the time, writing an app, trying to write something, rushing through it, so on and so forth. So we're going to just have a few tips on again, how to write a winning abstract. And in this particular part, I'm going to just go over some things, and then, oh man, I think I actually need to, I don't like this. Okay. So excuse me for leaning on the podium so I can talk into the microphone. But we'll do it. That's that IT. Is that? Can I turn this one off?
You can leave that on.
Okay.
Actually, we're doing a recording. I just have to make sure that we get everything.
Okay, awesome. All right. So can everybody hear me still? People in the nosebleeds back there. Okay, awesome. All right. So again, very informal. We'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions about the process. Ask questions just about how we go about determining who gets into K-Scope and gets to speak in front of the thousands and thousands of people that we saw this morning at the opening session. So, a few key points. Consider your audience. When we're writing abstracts and reviewing abstracts and thinking about K-Scope, this is a conference for content, technical content learning. So when we are talking about, when you're writing your abstract, think about who you're trying to send the message to. It's not as simple as just going, I got an idea, let me write it down and submit something. It is being thoughtful, it is being considerate and looking at the audience that is K-Scope, which are implementers, they are the consultants, they are the customers that are using products every day, implementing solutions every day. And so the content that is attractive to them is not necessarily the content that may be attractive to a different group. And so understanding who your audience is when you're writing your abstracts is one of the key points that I like to throw out there as one of the keys to writing a winning abstract for K-Scope. Don't copy and paste. And when we say don't copy and paste, there's a section for your abstract, there's a section for a summary, and when our content teams are reviewing your submissions and we see that you haven't taken the time to develop an abstract and give us a summary and you just kind of cut and pasted the same stuff, there's a level of effort that has to go into it. And if you are thinking about if you were working with somebody and they did the bare minimum to try to get something to you, what would you really think if you had them trying to dedicate some time? And so when we say don't copy and paste, be thoughtful again, develop an abstract, develop your idea, be able to summarize that and be able to deliver those two things to us as our content teams are reviewing that information and trying to make the determination of whether or not your particular submittal is sufficient to be part of the conference. And that being said, our reviewers are industry experts. So buzzwords, I'm just gonna leave the sign up there to that you understand. You get that, we recognize that, and we can make that observation to say, if you're just throwing out random stuff, our content reviewers know the industry, they are experts. And so again, as we talk about writing your abstracts, putting information in there, it's got to be quality, it has to be correct, so that because you're going to stand up in front of somebody or have the potential to stand up in front of somebody and present this information. It's all about the quality of the conference, the reputation of our speakers, and actually the reputation of the people that are all responsible for delivering the conference. Next key, be creative. People want to see unique and creative solutions to everyday problems. That's not to say that there aren't common problems that everybody has solutions to, but when you add the creativity, how are you bringing technologies together to solve problems that meet everyday needs? How are you combining the Oracle database? How are you combining that with other wraparound services to deliver a solution is where people want to see. They want to be able to come out there. Great presentation earlier today. Brought Oracle Jet in, brought REST services, ORDs, some soldering onto a power meter, all kinds of stuff. So creativity is one of those things that somebody can read an abstract and say, wow, this is something that's interesting, and I think everybody else would like that. Now, that was a little technical for some people. As his t-shirt says, I void warranties, so be careful when you go to those, because everything that you own will no longer be under warranty. All right, so our next one, marketing. This is, I'm gonna put open world is for marketing. Your salespeople, go to open world. Here, it's about the technical stuff. It is about the solutions. Marketing presentations do not go anywhere in a review for our conference. There are times that we allow for some marketing, but if your presentation is all about your company and how great you are, that's not going to fly. So when we say this, no marketing. Be concrete. Tell us what you're doing. We don't need to be overly verbose. What we want to know is what is the essence of your particular submittal. The abstract should be concise. Your summary should be concise, not to the point that you're cutting and pasting. At the same time, we don't need to have tons and tons and tons and tons of description. From some language perspective, use direct phrasing. Tell us what you're doing. Don't make us think about, oh, well, what does he really mean, or what does she really mean behind this? Because we want to know, as content reviewers, again, what that information is and how you're going to help our participants and our attendees solve problems. And here's one of my favorite ones. Start early. And I kind of went on Twitter, and sometimes it's a little joke because people wait to the very last minute to submit their abstracts. And then you get rushed. And then your content is not together. And so this is a note, again, take your time, build out your thoughts, put them down, let our reviewers understand what you're trying to do so that we can make a determination as easily as possible. And then the final slide for this part of the presentation is the discussion. And it'll go into a literal discussion shortly. But have time for your attendees that are in your sessions to be able to interact and ask questions. Don't build out a presentation that takes the entire, if it's 45 minutes, if it's 50 minutes, it's an hour, rushing to the end, and then everybody has to get up and walk out. You want to have, when you're developing this content, you want to put into it a window so that you have an opportunity as the expert that's made it through all the other slides that we've talked about when you get up here, is to be able to have that discussion, be able to talk about what those solutions are, clarify things, because they can be complex, so nobody's saying it's easy. But, so we want to have an opportunity for discussion, we want to have an opportunity for interaction, and those are the things, like from my perspective, that when you're trying to write a winning abstract, you need to take into consideration. You need to be thoughtful. You need to be concise. You need to deliver that message and allow for your audience to be an active participant. So that's the general approach. I'm going to turn it over to Natalie so she can talk more specifics and some things and some ideas about digging into the more details of writing a winning abstract. So I wanted to kind of break the ice and open up that. So thank you very much.
So I'm going to cover a couple of areas that applies to both the traditional side. When I say the traditional side, that's typically the database and Apex side versus the EPM and BI. By a show of hands, who is from the EPM tracks? Okay, so it's about half and half. Okay, great. All right, so it's worth me talking about it. So a couple of tips that I think are appropriate for both sides of the house is, one is let somebody else review your abstract, a colleague, a person you trust. We come to this conference, you have a wealth of resources. A lot of you, I don't think, are newbies. You should, meet people, talk to people. And if you're writing an abstract, bounce it off with somebody, get their opinion, because sometimes we have blinders on to our own ideas. So it's worth consulting with somebody you trust to review your abstract before you submit, just to make sure it's clear and what you're trying to get across comes across. The other area I wanted to cover is we are looking for a mix of content, not just advanced. So there's this perception, especially from people on the industry side, that you have to be some sort of technical genius to present at this conference. That is not true. We look for people who are willing to present beginner, intermediate, and advanced topics. The only requirement is that, as Danny stated, you need to be concrete and you need to write a good abstract. You need to have decent speaking skills, and that's evaluated after the first time you speak. But that you can you have a command of the material. And some of the beginner material is not complex, but it's still valuable. We have millennials coming and they're just getting into the profession, other people who are just getting into the profession. So from an EPM perspective, because that's where I come from, intro to calc scripts is still a valid topic. Intro to writing calc manager rules, gotta get cloud. So don't be afraid to write a beginner or intermediate type of abstract. Okay, more onto the EPM specific things. We do put a priority on customer presentations in the EPM track. We just feel that the industry people who come, most of our conference on the EPM side is industry professionals, and I think it's the same thing on the traditional side. It's mostly industry and not consultants. And clients or industry people like to hear from industry people, but it's very difficult for clients to speak or who want to speak. Your companies are sending you here paid anyway, so it's not like you really need the free pass, but we really want you guys to speak. So if you are an industry expert, we really, really, really put a priority on that. If you are a consulting firm, if you are on the consulting side, obviously, we have consultants speak all the time. What gives you a priority is if you partner with your client to speak, because then we're getting the voice of the customer in the presentation, which is very much a value. Okay, so that's one thing. We are also looking for first-time speakers. We like to keep our content fresh, and one of the ways to do that is to get first-time speakers. So this is another one that applies to both the traditional and EPM side of the house. First-time speakers, are we at like 25% this year? Higher, 35%. So I know there's some speakers that are like considered rock stars and they come back every year, but there's enough slots that new people are invited to come speak as well. And then last but not least, a tip for the EPMers, the data integration track. Oh, gosh, that track maybe has 12 slots, 14 slots, and we always get over 100 abstracts for that track. So just from a pure numbers perspective, you have a better shot of getting an abstract in if you're not in the data integration. So that's just a tip for the people in the room. Try to avoid that track unless you know you have like something completely outstanding and stellar. It's just a track we just seem to get a lot of submittals for whatever reason, and it's not one of the larger tracks like space planning or financial close. And I wanted Tiffany to be here. She is our business content track lead, and so she just led a team. And so I wanted to give you some insight into what the selection process is like. And so Tiffany, can you give the audience a feel for what it takes to go through the abstract review process from your perspective?
Sure. So, I did EPM business content this year, and as the lead, but I've been reviewing for the past 3 years before that on reporting and business content. We get a list of a lot of submissions. And like they said, it's in kind of a spreadsheet format as, when we get it and we get to see your name and we get to see your summary and your abstract. We get to see your bio information. So if you've completed your biographical, then we have that in there. And we definitely start whittling down the list pretty quickly by what Danny was saying. If you've copy and pasted things, then we kind of sort you to the bottom. If you don't have your bio information filled out, then that makes it tough for us to know more about you and where you're coming from. If, you're the systems admin for your company, it gives us some guidance to know that you might be good at, know at what you're talking about when we're looking at your topic, especially if you're a newbie, a new presenter to the conference. And we also look at reviews from past presentations that you've done. So if we have people that have presented before and get to come present again, then we get to look at your ratings from before that as well. We sit down as a group and kind of go through what we're looking for this year, the kind of content. As a lead, you tell them these are kind of the things that we're driving for this year as far as topics. Here's kind of what the split needs to be. We need to have this many user presentations versus vendor or consultant presentations. And then I have everybody on my team, I have everybody independently go and rank their top 20. And then we hash it out over several calls. So all of us get on a conference call and fight for the ones that we think are going to be the best. So you're going to have to appeal to somebody that, like they said, we get 15 of the exact same abstract. I did this implementation. I did started a cloud planning implementation. So what was special about yours, or why is it unique? Or it doesn't have to be advanced. It's just, it was complex because of this. Or we had a bunch of roadblocks and we're going to tell you, how we got around them and things like that. So just think about it as a user yourself. All those summaries that you see is what's ending up in your schedule for this week. So if it's something that when you read it, you wouldn't want to go see that presentation, then you probably should change your abstract because you're trying to find people that need that information and give it to them. And I think for me, the hardest part is that there'll be somebody who's really close, right? And then did the copy and paste thing or didn't fill out their bio. And so I don't want people to miss out on a chance for easy things like that, especially when you have some good content. And I mean, we won't get rid of all the people that are missing bios or the copy and paste, especially if you have a really great sounding idea, because we will follow up if we really are interested in your topic and think that you need to expand on it a little bit more, or we need to understand a little bit more where you're going with it. We definitely try and make it the best conference content that we can. So it's not all just done in a closed room, and we definitely try and bounce it off of each other. There's a lot of people that put in a lot of time reviewing and trying to find the best content that we can give.
Tiffany, can you give a little description about your team and the makeup and the number of people that were on your review team?
Yeah, so I had, I want to say 6 people that were on the business content. And for business content, we have a slightly different audience that we're gearing for. We want kind of more of a managerial or the decision maker, the future planners for the folks that are at this conference. And so in my team, we had, vice presidents of finance, and we had leading consultants that were, practice directors. So I had a lot, I think, more of a senior position reviewers on my team that were, their perspective was, if I was going to this conference, what kind of content do I need to talk about, or what kind of questions is my CFO asking me. Those are the kind of things that we were trying to answer. I know when I was on other teams and talking to other teams, it's similar. There's people who are new to it, that are new to the Kaleidoscope experience, have been coming for a couple years, and can give the perspective of, I'm a beginner, and I think these would be great beginner type sessions for other people that are new to this. And then there's people who have been in the industry for 20 years and know how to filter out some of the more advanced topics. So yeah, it was a variety. There's, I think, a variety when you're on the different teams, but for mine, it was a little bit more of a senior set. So
on the more technical tracks, you're going to have still a diversity, client or industry professionals versus vendors, people at different experience levels. We try to make sure that it's not the same people reviewing year to year. So I think it's like about a 2-year to 3-year rotation for people to be. The track leads is definitely a 2-year. Some people last a little longer. Oracle ACEs and ACE directors, because of their standing in the community and their, what they do in the community. Sometimes they last a little bit longer on content teams, but for the most part, we try to keep our content teams fresh, and the best way for us to pull from that is who we meet at the conference. So we'll, just by talking and at lunch, Opal will sit at a table, I'll sit at a table, we should recommend this person, and one person, I was just talking to them at the conference and thought he worked for Wells Fargo, and I made a recommendation. I think he ended up on your team, and that's the way that happened. So we take volunteers for those. A lot of times we get it's the same thing with the abstracts. We get a lot of consultants who want to do it, but we really appreciate if customers want to participate. It's a number of hours. What was the average number of hours you would say per week for the first couple months during abstract review? Per week.
I guess if you spread it out, because we would only do a call every other week, an hour or so long call, because we did a lot of the reviewing independently. But when we do the hash it out meeting, that's 4 to 5 hours of.
But then to do the rating, so we also have a rating, so all the reviewers go in and rate and read each abstract. So that takes some time, especially for the larger tracks or the larger submittals.
Yeah, that can take a few hours to keep working through that on a weekly basis. So.
If you volunteer, but then also try to put an abstract in.
That's okay.
You're just not allowed to vote on your own session.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or your own abstract. So, so the way the teams are constructed, you have track. So the EPM and BI content track lead on the conference committee selects the track leads, and then builds out the team, sometimes getting input from the track leads. On the traditional side is a little bit different. He or she selects the track leads, and then the track leads build out the teams. So the EPM side is a little bit more controlled. Just to be frank, on the EPM and BI side, there's just a little bit more sensitivity with vendors. We have a lot of vendors. If you notice the exhibit hall, a lot of it is. There's a reason why almost every boutique in the EPM industry is here. So we just have to be careful in how we balance out the teams because of the vendor situation on the EPM side. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm curious if you could share your thoughts on, I noticed that a lot of conference attendees are male, and a lot of presenters are also male. So what could be done, or what are we doing to increase female participation in presenting or submitting abstracts?
So I think I have a thought on that. I think it's a very deep dive discussion about it, but I think as in general, females, we have a hard time thinking that we're capable of giving a presentation, right? If there's somebody in the room who says, I don't know this stuff well enough to be able to be giving a presentation. I know that was me when I, for years, did not submit presentations because I kept saying, well, I'm not an expert, and Opal can tell you I've said this as well when I was asked to do the EPM content for next year. It's like, I'm not like the expert in this, right? But I think that it's really us just trying, right? You have to put yourself out there. You have to know that the worst that's going to happen is you won't get selected, right? So I think it's up to all of us that if we know somebody or we have a colleague, female or male, that could do something, is good at presentations or has a good idea, just put your name in the hat, right? Because you definitely won't get it if you don't submit your name for it. But I think that it's a thing about just kind of taking that first jump. But definitely, I mean, I don't say that I try to really hard I try to pick people for their content, not for any other factors other than the fact that, they copy and pasted stuff, or they're a vendor, a consultant or something like that. Those are factors that are in there. But I try to just give everybody from an even keel of it. But I think that we should all go out and just tell everybody and tell ourselves to just try. That's the number one thing you can do.
So women tend to fall back. We are taught as little children to share and let everybody have their own time, and not let our light shine, right? So if you look at how our society raises boys and girls, boys are taught to be very forward, aggressive, go for what you want. Girls are taught to share and give everybody equal time, right? So that perpetuates what we see with women as they go through their careers and feeling like they can't let themselves shine. So it's a cultural thing that we just have to break out of. So our Women in Technology luncheon, those are one of the types of topics that we try to address. Standing up, speaking up for yourself, touting your own horn. I think we have a hard time saying, hey, I'm kind of amazing, And it's okay to do that. And you're not, I think the perception is that you're going to be seen as being arrogant while men are seen as being confident. And it's a paradigm shift that's going to have to take place where we're letting women shine without being perceived as being a negative thing as opposed to just being a confidence thing. So it's something we're going to have to work on. Yeah.
Also address this. So, as the case code 18 conference chair next year, one of the, this is a little bit of insider information, but one of the things that I'm doing is we don't always practice what we preach, and being on the EPM side, we do a lot of analytics in our real job. So we are adding an investment next year to do this types of analytics. So I think the art of the question probably is more towards, I don't see that many women speakers. What is the cause of that? Is there discrimination or is it something else? All three of us are very passionate about it, by the way, which is why we can talk about this for hours. I'm not going to do that. One of the things that I had one of our content shares do was look at that. As much as we could, because gender is obviously not a requirement for something that's in anyone's profile, so you don't necessarily know speakers are male or female, you just basically guess at the names. But I had a content share look at that this year to see if there was possible discrimination. So there's a lot more research and investigations to do there, because you have to look at the ratings, you have to look at the ratings going into the abstracts, the speaker ratings coming out of the Facebook conference, but that's an area that I do want to look at, just to see, how are we doing? Is it discrimination against women, or is it just women don't submit this in the abstracts? That could be the case too. So it's kind of hard to point to a root cause, but it's something that's all three of us are very passionate and cognizant about. So hopefully more information from that.
I definitely don't think someone should be selected based on gender.
Understood.
Yeah.
I always want to know, what can I do to help make a difference? And I think Tiffany and Natalie both touched on the fact that encouraging more people to submit an abstract, at least if it's a pipeline challenge, gets more options available for consideration.
Yep.
Yep.
I would personally be encouraging people to submit regardless, but I'm going to probably make some extra effort to encourage women to submit.
That's what I do that all the time. We will seek out women that we think should be speaking, and who knows why they didn't submit or are not submitting. But we definitely try it. But yeah, we need to take that to a career level and reach out to more women.
Any other questions? Yes.
Is there a place where we can see examples of abstracts and bios and summaries?
So all the summaries of the abstracts are what are in the app. That's the summary. The abstracts so there's two parts to submitting. There's the summary, which is what is presented on the website or in the app, that you know what presentations to go to. And then an abstract is much more detailed for the content teams to evaluate the meat of your presentation. Opal wrote a blog post. Did you have an example on there?
We are probably going to recirculate, I think all of the content shares at some point have written a blog post on how to write good abstracts. So we'll probably just push that back out as we go to abstract season again. I have a very, very detailed one that's like, don't do this, don't do this. It's not really all this stuff. But I think others have written some too, so we'll push all that stuff. Maybe you can get to think about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think there is an opportunity to actually put? Oh, do you think there's an opportunity to put a sample of an abstract somewhere on our site somewhere?
Okay, so the reason why I didn't do that in my blog post is I didn't want to show favoritism. So I just said, look at the previous year's case website because those are obviously all the approved abstracts. So they were also approved. So I didn't want to take favorites on one.
Yeah, it's hard to show ones that don't work because then the person, if we put a blog that says, oh, this one was terrible, then somebody's going to look at it and say, oh, that was mine. But exactly. And so, yeah, anything that is, like Natalie said, in the brochure, on the app, or, in your program for the week, the app, those are the winning ones.
But
So-
yeah, that's the summary. I think they're looking for the
Abstract.
yeah.
Okay. I think definitely we can come up with a better example, or I know that I'm more than happy to help somebody as they trying to figure out how to work through it, that through email or something you can reach out and I can help you figure out a good way to craft it or give a suggestion as to what's different, what should be different. So that might be helpful too. I mean, it's a small room, so I'm not signing up to help 1,000 people at the moment, but if 1,000 people wanted help, then I could do that. But that's a good suggestion.
Any other questions about the process, about the selection process, or about actually writing an abstract? So is everybody going to write an abstract this year and submit?
Everybody says
Everybody should be like,
Yes.
yes, because we know what to do to get it approved. Yes.
Any idea when it's going to open for proposals for next year?
Should be immediately after this conference, if it's not already open. The
When's
website's
the-
up, so I just don't know if the content selection starts up yet.
When's the deadline?
Okay, so we haven't discussed final due dates, but generally speaking, it's mid-October, which is when the abstracts are due. Generally speaking.
And to speak to his first point, it's not that I'm trying to wait till the deadline. I'm actually in a situation where I'm switching jobs. I'm heading into a new company that I see is opening up some opportunities on talks that is going to push me to actually finally put an abstract in, which I've been wanting to do for years. But I need to make sure I have enough time to see the challenges they're getting and how I'm going to get around it before I can actually put that abstract in.
When he says don't wait till the last minute, I think he means don't wait till the last minute to construct it.
Right,
You
yeah.
can submit up until the deadline. We don't have a preference for people who submit 2 months early or 11:59 on the night day it's due.
Yeah,
We
right.
don't
So
see it.
we have a deadline when you actually have to submit your presentation, and we tend to see jokes all over Twitter about waiting to the very last minute to do that. Then it can lead to being a rushed presentation. So building that whole thing into your working calendar is where we are, because at the end of these you'll get evaluated and a rush through. Well,
But yeah, we don't, as a content reviewer, you don't get to see when the person submitted it, so it all just comes into one. So we don't know if you did it 2 hours ahead or 2 months.
good question. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm gonna throw something out there.
All right.
No, it doesn't have to be on cloud.
Yes. For me, when I'm looking at things, I want things that are customer related, right? And if you were at Sunday Symposium, they were saying about 75% of us are still on-prem. So if your solution is about on-prem, then there's probably a lot of other people in the room who would listen to that story and gain something from it. So as another person who's at a client, who's a customer in a company, I want to hear about how you're fixing things. I want to hear how, you dealt with certain things that aren't working with the latest upgrade, because on-prem is a little different than cloud, and, it is what it is, and there's a variety of topics that need to be covered here, so.
Opal, is there a way to get feedback on abstracts that weren't selected? You can send an email and ask for advice about why your abstract wasn't selected. I'll let Opal speak to that. Okay.
No, we definitely have vendors and specific folks who ask every year, why you not selected or submitted 20 abstracts or nothing. We would have to write that.
It's just, I had somebody who was recently, and they feel too, if you want to tell me,
Yeah, you can ask. Because as part of a reviewing piece, we have to go in and give a rating to the presentation, the abstract, but then also we try to put down as many notes as we can to say that this was one of 5 presentations on FCCS, and the other ones had further details in their abstract than this one.
I'm sorry?
Who should she
Who to
contact?
contact for that?
Next year it'll be me, but
On the EPM side.
yeah.
On the EPM side.
On EPM it'll be me.
Right, but are you looking for feedback from this year's selection process?
Tim?
Yeah, Tim German.
Tim German.
Way to put him on the spot.
So what do you think is the largest expense for the conference? Any idea? Food? Close. It's the comps we give to the speakers. So we have, how many speakers do we have? 200 speakers?
Yeah, a little over 200.
200.
So basically we're giving a $1,500 plus pass to 200 and something people, and we got to cover their expenses at the conference. So one of the things we have to do is we can't afford to give a 1-to-1 ratio for comps to presentations. So sometimes, so there's a couple of things that we do. One is, I know on the traditional side, they look for, they only give speaking slots to established speakers. I mean, if you're not an established speaker, if you're a beginner speaker, you can only present one time so that we can see your evaluation before you get more than one. But there has to be a balance between comps and the number of presentations. So another tip is to, if you have spoken at other conferences, it doesn't even have to be ours, but if you're a known speaker, if you've spoken at Collaborate or Open World or whatever, submit 2 or 3 up to 4 presentations, because that'll help us, because we can't afford to do the one speaker, one presentation, one comp. We have to look at people being able to do at least 2 sessions. A few times we've had to stretch to 3. We try not to, just to get a diversity of pool of speakers, but that is a factor. So if it's not your first time submitting more than one quality abstract, like at least 2 quality abstracts or 3, actually can help you.
Good deal. Yes, question?
My abstract was not chosen earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But then last week, all of a sudden, they got a call on they accepted that. So I spoke to the executive said, well, I have to admit it. Because being the primary speaker. Does this happen very often? Or
I'll let Danny answer that one.
Yeah, so no, it doesn't happen often, but if you've been to conferences before, and I mean, even just kind of you touched on like your work schedule, and so there is a process where there's a round there's a selection round, and all of those speakers are notified that they've been accepted to speak, and sometimes things happen, and we have spots to fill, and your if you were called up, that kind of meant that you were probably on the cusp anyway of being accepted, and there was something, but a space opened in a particular area that we were lacking content, or that content was going to be missing, and so the content teams go back through and do another review and reach out to people that have submitted. Yes?
Yeah, can I add to that?
Sure.
So that was one of their meetings this year.
Oh, great.
It was very cool to do. I was very excited to do it. And I think to Tiffany's point, so we have to come up with a list of rankings. So if you got called today, it means you were in that, you have to select alternates. So we had people that needed it for sure, and then we have to also pick our track meets, and what do we need, like 6, I think there's 5 or 6 alternate presentations. So in case one of them drops, you were basically next, and you were that close. So in our rankings.
Yeah, we get cancellations occasionally, not a lot, but for various reasons, right? Travel, family commitments, blah, blah, blah. And so then obviously we hope that it happens more than just 2 weeks before the conference, so that you guys, when we call you guys as alternates, that you're not scrambling. So we've battled, like, do we let people know they're alternates or do we not? And it's just, because then, it's kind of like this, I don't know, this weird zone, twilight zone area that, you might never get called. And so I don't know what you plan on doing for next year, Opal, if you're going to let people know that they're an alternate. But then we don't want you to go, and it takes a lot of time to build an abstract, and we don't want you spending, I know people who spend 80 hours to 100 hours building their presentations, and then you never get called. So.
Being somebody that would want to submit an abstract, I would want to hear if I was on that cusp of, even being an alternate, because then, even if you don't get called that year, that means I was that close, I could just spend maybe an extra 10, 20 hours on that abstract, and I'd get chosen next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was that close to the cusp,
Yeah.
and he got called, he's going to do it. She's like, great.
Friday on that side, 1 week, 5 days to prepare the slides.
Wow.
You
Wasn't your
are
fault.
Superman. Yeah. We are empathetic to that situation. So,
Yeah. So another thing we balance for is, so if you work for a consulting company that submits a lot of presentations and has good speakers, you might get rejected. Because one of the things we look at is we don't want it to seem like this one consulting company or this one vendor to have 30 presentations or 40. We actually cap the number of presentations for the consulting companies on the EPM side because of the whole issue with, with vendors. And there's a lot of benefits for a vendor to be up in front a lot of times because they're basically getting 75% of the audience is people that they could possibly sell their services to. So it's one of the things we look at. So if you work for a consulting company, even if you write a great abstract, there might be other people writing great abstracts in your company, and it might be a numbers thing too. So that's just something to consider. You might want to coordinate with the people at your firm to say, okay, well, who should we submit, because it's going to get cut off. There's a limit. We don't want to be known as anyone's conference, right?
other than the users.
Right, except you guys. This is the Oracle Users Conference, not a vendors conference. It's not even Oracle's conference.
All right, do we have any other questions?
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Seeing none, thank everybody for attending, and hope we were able to give you some insights on how to build and write a winning abstract, and look forward to, there are about 20 people in the room, so we look forward to seeing everybody next year speaking. All right, have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank